All right, this is my second take because the other take didn't actually go through. All right, so my name is Marvin Lockett. I'm here to do my final project on one of the nonprofit organizations that I identified in my area. I'm unique. Well, not that unique, but I don't live in the Springfield area in the Missouri area. I actually live in Kansas. So I picked a nonprofit out of Topeka, Kansas, which is the Topeka Rescue Mission and Ministries. What they do is they provide shelter, food, um, placement, resources. They have collaboration with some other entities that work on policy for homeless people and trying to figure out ways to get things for them and resource ability. As you can see right here to my right, I have my slideshow presentation that actually even says, the Topeka Rescue Mission. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it because 13 minutes is really not a lot of time to speak about something. So I'm going to go ahead and try right now. All right, so when I get into this introduction, we're talking about the root causes of the situation I picked, which is poverty and shelter. And there's actually shelter, kind of, I think it's homelessness in my eyes, because that's one of the things they work with. We'll talk about the symptoms of the root cause and what it creates, and then we're also going to talk about the negative impact that it has on the community and people at large. So, introduction continued. There was some other things that our instructor professor wanted us to discuss, and it happens to deal with the part two, and I call it the A through E. And there's a few other things talking about collaboration, toxic stuff, organizations that are working in an area on a specific issue, the same specific issues. So I discussed that in my paper, which I've already sent it and forwarded, and then I'm going to most likely post this to YouTube so that I can go ahead and share the link so that the instructor and anybody else can go ahead and look at it based off of what's going on. All right, so let's talk about the mission statement. And I'm going to read it for you word for word because I can't really memorize things through my military career and a little bit of TBI and things like that. Bring help and hope through faith, which is sleeves rolled up. The values of the TRM, which is, of course, Topeka Rescue Mission, is based off the organization's religious faith. Those values are as follows. And I'm going to talk to you about those values and what they do. They are strictly a religious group that is, of course, IRS exempt based off of their nonprofit status. Now, they truly started from a faith group, and they are still a faith group today. And I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. From what I notice, most of their services of giving back to the community is based off their Christian faith, from what I can see. And that's okay. And we'll talk about that, if that could be a toxic thing in the future or not. So here's some of the services provided. You're talking about shelter, food, human trafficking, because if you are homeless or you're poverty, say a kid runs away, generally they get linked up with somebody, and that could cause some issues too, especially with human trafficking being one of the major things of today. Sex trafficking, children trafficking, you name it. And slave trafficking, we don't want that to happen to anybody regardless of their social status, even if they're homeless or in poverty. Okay, and then it calls Children Palace, kind of helping develop children today to understand that, you know what, hey, you can have good situations, you can have good things occur in your life, and we try to break that cycle. Of course, the TRM tries to break that cycle so that they don't have the stressors on them, like the mentally, emotionally, and physical things, and they can have fun and be kids and only worry about those things kids worry about. Hey, when do I eat? When do I play? When do I eat? When do I play? And that's generally what you want kids to do. Have no fear and worry about that next meal. So if you want to think about poverty, I'll tell you, I actually added in my paper to these graphs that you see right here before you. One of them shows you who, between males and females, which age group, which happens to be 18 to 24, has the issue with poverty. And right now, females lead the way. Not in a good way, because no one wants to lead anything when it comes to poverty. But the 18 to 24 age group leads the way right now. And that's in Topeka alone. And I got all these statistics from websites that's in Topeka based off their data. And I've provided some of the websites and links to go to it on my paper. So when you look at the races and ethnicity, you will notice that it's the Caucasian race, which they indicate by white, like it's a load of laundry. I don't understand why they do that, because it's Caucasian, African American, Hispanic. I got it, but they just kind of put regular colors up there. But it's based off the census that goes around door to door, gathering intel about what people live, how they live, what they make, and their incomes. And based off that, the Caucasian race was the ones who met higher when it comes to poverty within Topeka. Now, there's some reasons for why they're higher. They're also the majority within Topeka. So when you're the majority, generally you're going to have more people that might fall into a certain category. Following the Caucasians, the African American race, and then of course Hispanics, which is a very small population up there in Topeka. But they have a population. But the key things here is to understand that regardless if you're 18 to 24, male or female, or black, white, Hispanic, as they put it, Caucasian, African American, Hispanic, we all have the same issues. It doesn't just happen to one race because of a race. It happens to people who don't have certain resources and certain abilities. And some people haven't started the race like others have. And that's just reality based off of how people are raised. Part one is the impacts on life. So, if you are worried in poverty, sometimes you might be homeless. There's a hunger thing that comes into play. I also talk about depression, anxiety, and a lot of people right now, that's the mental aspect that I discussed in my paper. If you really think about it, a lot of our people up in Topeka, Kansas right now, there was a situation where they closed down the mental institution and they kind of sent those people back into the street. These are people that no one wanted. Their families didn't want them. They didn't want to deal with them. People that had schizophrenia, multiple personalities. These are the people who ended up in the streets. These are the people that they service to try to help them get back and get those medical attention, the medical attention needed. But these people are the ones I also service as my nonprofit when I'm out there helping them with one of theirs. And I will tell you that they're people too. And the fact that they closed down that facility really made an impact on the homeless population. Now, right now they fixed it. Kansas has come up with a budget where they can finance and keep the mental health stuff going, which is needed. But that caused a major issue at the beginning. But still, they're not able to accept everybody in because small facilities means you get small services. But they do all this thing. Poor hygiene. I'll talk to you about a poor hygiene story in a second so that we can really bring that home. So let's talk about Part C, negative impacts. I had a personal experience. As a drill sergeant, I had multiple people come to me that might have been homeless, which I know a few were homeless, or they just lived in poverty. You find this information because they eventually tell you and they share information with you. I had one child, and I call him a child because he's younger than me. He came to training to learn how to be a military police officer. Every tooth in his mouth was rotten, black and to the core, all the way down to the freaking nerves. And we had to go take him to our dentist, and he's a soldier now, and extract each one of those teeth. Some of those teeth came out without even pulling. That's how bad it was. And we gave him implants. And this was all due to because he wasn't educated and his family wasn't very thorough in letting him know how to be clean and how to cleanse yourself, especially when it comes to your teeth, because you only got one set. In this case, being in the military, you end up getting two. But hey, just imagine that's the poverty level. Just imagine the people that don't know how to clean themselves, wash clothes, because their family grew up in a situation where that wasn't happening. They weren't taught and educated. So that ends up being a learned trait. One of those norms of their childhood and a norm of their adulthood. And it continues throughout their life, and it keeps filtering down time after time after time. And somebody has to break that cycle. And that's why you got to talk about the volunteer work that people do with the TRM, the Topeka Rescue Mission and Ministries. And they are providing education to these individuals so that they can learn, grow, and share with others to get out of that turmoil that they're in today. Now, hey, they're not going to treat them bad. They're not going to disrespect them. They're just going to educate them. Hopefully get them off the streets because they provide shelter, get them some foods for their nourishment so that they can get kids to learn and want to focus on things they should be doing. But all of these things wrapped up into that personal experience where I can kind of see exactly what the Topeka Rescue Mission does. Now, there is many other instances. I've talked to a pregnant female that was, a matter of fact, it was last week when I went down there and we were feeding them. And I'll tell you, she's pregnant. How is she going to get prenatal care? How is she going to be able to take care of herself in the winter months? Blankets and heat sources is very vital, especially the prenatal care, the pills and things like that. But these are all the things right here that my personal experiences, what has occurred in life, and seeing these individuals and how they struggle, but they're so proud. They got so much pride that they will speak to you as if nothing's wrong, and that is one of the things I really admire about the homeless community up in Topeka. So I'm going to talk about part two, which I laid it into A and E on my paper. So if you follow on the paper, collaboration. They do have collaboration with a entity out there, another organization, but they don't deal with the big major scale things like the shelter, the feeding, and things like that. They deal with policies and trying to link people to social type networks and employments to try to get them on their feet to work so that they can defeat certain things. And that's great. They complement each other, and that's what collaboration means. You compliment somebody on what you can do, and they can do something else. That way, it's a two-way front, and then that no one can mow them down, and they can just gain more ground as they keep educating people. Then, of course, the services that the Topeka Rescue Mission serve: food, shelter, human trafficking, street reach, which I'm a part of. That means going out to the areas in which some of these homeless cities are, or encampments, and basically feeding them, finding out their needs, giving them resources, blankets, covers, coats, hats, things like that. And if it's in the summer, insect repellent, things to help them, sunscreen. Those are vital things out there. Wet wipes. You understand what I'm saying? Hey, this is stuff that people need to realize, that it's small stuff to us, but it's big stuff to those in poverty and things like that that don't know where the next meal is coming from, or vice versa. When it comes to toxic charity ideology based off of what we talked about in school, I would tell you that I really don't see it personally with the Topeka Rescue Mission and Ministries. I do believe that sometimes religion can be pushed in that direction, as long as they're not pushing their religion on people and they're doing this out of their faith and how they feel, then we're okay. But if you're pushing religion on them, saying you have to be this or you can't get that, then it could turn into one of those toxic type things when a nonprofit, and their ideologies can do more damage than they can do positive. And right now, I just don't foresee that in the Topeka Rescue Mission, which is great. I really love volunteering and helping them out, and then going out and using my nonprofit, which is the Full Tilt Riders Motorcycle Club, and letting them show that they really care about their community and the things that occur in it. So what I talked to you all about was the Topeka's Rescue Mission, their mission statement, some of the services they provide, gave you an experience of what happened to a soldier that lived in poverty and about his teeth, and a pregnant homeless woman that I encountered and talked to. Then I also talked to you about their collaboration and if they have any toxic type non-profit things and ideologies. And right now, I believe that I've given you a lot of information that's in my paper that you can resource and follow along. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you all in another class. Have a great night.